There. There. Did you know in 2020 they simulated time travel? At a quantum level, they proved that the butterfly effect isn't a thing. Rather, damage in the past doesn't have as much effect on the future that one would have suggested from such fictional stories. Dog. What with the voice today? Any. So the theory goes. If you would go back in time and do something trivial, the damage would be rather localized. So stepping on a butterfly 65 million years ago wouldn't result in a different species becoming dominant. That said, there's a lot of hidden variables for time travel. It would be safer to transmit information back in time via Stein's gate. Than to physically travel and bring potentate patents or armaments to the past. Like, that's one of those things that happens in time travel stories. Is leaving behind something that is so far beyond the touch level of the past. That someone discovers its purpose sends the past along a different trajectory entirely. That said, I wonder how much more damage sending yourself the lotto numbers for next week was worth. Over sending yourself the stock market tickers for next week. At least with the stock market, it's background noise. But if you won the jackpot of a lotto, you'd certainly derail the future in some meaningful way. Most lotteries result in splitting jackpots. But if you were the sole winner of a jackpot that wasn't won after a long period of time, that would certainly step on. Lot of butter releases, the people who put money into it would all change. That took a while. I wonder what that fourth icon was. Is that some built-in cheat? One sec. I have no ID. I'm going to assume it's a cheat. Ah, yes, another sewer puzzle. Robo Sewer Watt. Surge found White Brooch. Surge found Tyrol. Here's my view on in-game cheats. Don't use them if the game didn't intend you to use them. Like this game originally didn't have slow and fast modes. The reason I use them is to avoid a frustration that happens in ports of games. So in a game that was intended to be played on the SNES or PlayStation, these games didn't operate at smooth 6-stick gameplay. And when you port it to the PC is too smooth. So timing games have historically been a problem on all PC ports. Especially when the game was developed on a slower PC in the first place. That said, if you are speedrunning a game, you're only supposed to use speed controls that are within the game, not ones that are outside it. And in the cause of the slow, fast, and others were too cheatsy. You should be playing the game the first time with these off. Fast forward, on the other hand. Technically a cheat too, but it's more like a speed control. It doesn't actually make anything easier in the game. All it does is make the battles, especially random ones, less tedious to finish. can finish a game a many percent style speedrun. Many speedrunners abuse bugs in the game. Like I was looking at speedrun leaderboards and most of them just make me go, who cheated? Like there is no skill in finding a way to finish a game in the first 2 minutes. And all you did was get to the didn't heed the call to adventure ending. Like in Nier Automata. You can get one of the gag endings just by dying quickly in the beginning. That technically counts as an any percent speed run. Yet, that's not actually playing the game. To me, a speed run doesn't count unless you complete the primary objective. Perhaps what we are doing is wrong. If this experiment succeeds, we will be able to control time. We will have complete control over history and in a sense, become like gods. If so, what meaning is there to the history of mankind? But it's too late now. We can't afford to fail in this experiment. If for some reason anything goes wrong, the anti-annihilation energy will probably overwhelm us. Who knows what the consequences may be? Elorinason. This background is actually a very slow remix of the Chrono Trigger theme. Hi, Renison, I'm fine. I'm just playing Chrono Cross. Originally, El Nido was nothing but ocean. The El Nido archipelago was purely artificial, created by fate. It was a remodeling plan that took place 10,000 years ago. A plan to include islands blessed with nature in the Sea of El Nido. The mainland of El Nido, Earth Dragon Isle, Water Dragon Isle, Black Dragon Eye. The development of elements using the energy of the natural world. The distribution of memory terminal devices called the records of fate that could monitor and guided people's lives. The research center staff, who had their memories of the future erased, left the center and began a life outside amidst nature. This is how Fate's Paradise came into existence. And for over 10,000 years, Fate has been watching over and guiding the descendants of the staff who left this research center. Everything was in perfect harmony. That is, until 14 years ago, when Eboy came into contact with the flame on the night of the storm. That's interesting. Where was the lock release for the elevator again? My mind's been blanking out lately. You know what, funny he? This Echoes of the Past bit is used in Final Fantasy XIV. The DNA records are poems and music. Adenine and thymidine and cytosine and melody. Perhaps the DNA of the ones who make contact with the flame is recomposed by the sound they generate within. I wonder if life forms are just dreaming in an endless flow of music. So a TGC, Bardine. Those are the actual names. Game is trying to sound smart. One says, "This crashed the voice software." LAVOS? An extraterrestrial life form that is thought to have fallen from the heavens 65 million years ago. On the timeline that existed before history was changed, Lavos was assumed to have slept deep below the planet's surface. Sleeping consuming the planet's energy up until the day of destruction known as the Apocalypse. There are those who believe that 12,000 years ago, the legendary ancient magical civilization known as Zeal came into contact with Lavos. That fateful encounter is said to have resulted in Zeal disappearing from the surface of the planet within the space of a single night. However, the very existence of the ancient civilization of Zeal has never been proven, so the theory cannot be confirmed. To this day. On some time, Lavos appeared on the surface of the planet in year 1999 and brought the world to ruin. However, a group of young time travelers saw where their planet's history was heading, and through their actions, rewrote time. This very research facility exists on that new timeline. In a world where, thanks to the defeat of Lavos by the young adventurers, the apocalypse never happened. On a temporal vector where human civilization continued to evolve unhampered. All the data on Lavos that was obtained from tracing different parallel world possibilities has proven to be volatile, with fluctuating discrepancies. Perhaps at this point in time, it is nearly impossible to obtain any true information about Lavos. Hello, a Triatch. Sorry, that was just like 2 pages of text. And it looks like the game only sent the first half. Oh, what were you just chatting about? HUMAN-ANSREPTITES. 65 million years ago, the reptiles who evolved from reptiles had developed their own unique civilization. This was long before the ancestors of humans, who evolved from primates, had developed their civilization. Excavations carried on the central continent of Zenon have revealed that the reptiles already had advanced architectural skills in the prehistoric era. But Lavos' descent to the planet's surface and this age this brought about rang the death knell for the reptiles and their civilization. After that, the reptiles slowly disappeared from stage of history. However, in the distant past, humans could have been defeated in the contest of evolution, and the reptiles could have continued to develop. It is not unthinkable that such a timeline could exist in another dimension. Everything is purely a problem of possibilities, and the world is only stabilized by the viewpoint of the one who observes it. Oh, well, that's a lot to unpack. So in Chrono Trigger, one of the alternative endings is the Riptide ending. And this is also referencing another kind of quantum theory. The one where the observer is in control. Thanks for the gift of sympathy, Wonder Bubble, to Atra. I'm sorry, I was trying to find out what order everything appeared in. Please present the Centlab zone registration card. Only personal registry desk arbiter may enter. The experiment will begin soon. Please withdraw to your designated positions. We do the same in case of an emergency. Everyone gather around. Let's see. In the 11th century, the century that spanned the name of Lucca indicated the possibility of time travel through the use of a time egg which utilizes miniature black holes. Whether this could actually be possible or not is still the subject of intense debate, and no conclusions have been made. According to her theory, by rotating a single point of supergravity, space-time continua can be drawn in, thus making it possible to transform that singular point, which pulls in everything else into a ring formation. Using this ring as a gate between dimensions, it should be possible to travel back and forth between various space-times. Time eggs may have already existed during the reign of the ancient dynasty we heard legends about. We shouldn't have to rely on theories from an ancient civilization may not have even existed. We can do this ourselves. But the legends say they alter time using a time egg. That just a legend. There isn't even any evidence to prove that this ancient dynasty ever existed. The experiment should be starting soon. After we discover an unusual gravitational field in the barren sea of El Nido, we built artificial islands and established Chronopolis. This was all done to facilitate your top secret research. But now, our research is about to come to its end. Once the final adjustments are made, the experiment will commence. It's just a matter of time, so everyone should keep up their good work. The chief hasn't returned yet. He hasn't. Then we'll have to hold off until he gets back. Time is not absolute, but elastic. It is both relative and subjective. Individual differences emerge as time changes. Perhaps people, all life forms, exist in their own separate strands of time. Is time independent, marching to the beat of its own drum? Ha. Ridiculous. So that's some fun stuff there. If you've played Steins Gate, or at least watched the anime, you've probably seen some of that vocabulary. And the fun thing is, Steins Gate itself lifted its core story elements from a so-called time traveler. John Titor. And you keep seeing a lot of the same elements show up in time travel and parallel worlds. Like I'll give the game credit. For the time period it was published in, it would have sounded plausible. Many black holes. The lost, ancient magic civilization of Z. If it really did exist, someone may have even traveled through time to this period. We may appear to be a military research center, but the actual subject of our research is time itself. The institution was established under the utmost secrecy by the central government. We're conducting a simulation of phase shifting. There's a mysterious being inside. Dina, we have to bring someone here that knows what this is. This is kinda creepy. We control human emotions by using neurotransmitters. That means that by manipulating the nerve transmitters inside of their brains, it's possible to control the feelings and even the personalities of humans. Fate uses the records of Fate to connect directly to the brains of the humans with whom they come into contact. Fate not only imprints what actions the humans should take into their brains, it also rewrites their personalities and feelings. Remember what Lynx kept saying. Are you sure you are who you think you are? Another long thing of text the voice doesn't like. The life forms on this planet developed from single-celled microorganisms to protozoans. Then from fish to amphibians, from reptiles to mammals, and eventually to humans. Beginning with the cerebral neocortex, which only exists in higher mammals. The anthropod brain enlarged at an accelerating pace until it became the human brain we know. Could the reason for the abnormal development of the human brain be the biological contamination caused by the lavas? It then follows that humans are really a heterogeneous life form, or foreign matter, as far as the planet is concerned. Humans are a sudden mutation caused by the contact with lavas, an alien life form that fell to this planet from space. That is why humans are, biologically speaking, unbalanced and incomplete. Internally inconsistent and disconnected human existence is plagued by contradictions. An incomplete species torn between love and hatred whose very being is self-contradictory. From the planet's perspective, humans are only a destructive force, a cursed, even pathetic, blight on the world. Interesting that the game keeps giving me dialogue that the game isn't even showing. I wonder if I should report it to Square Enix. Memory scanning and imprinting is not that difficult a thing. As a matter of fact, it is possible to simulate the thoughts and feelings of each individual. These are all just electric signals that flow around the circuitry of the brain after all. The vessels of flesh cannot be reproduced through cloning. And the soul stored within these fleshly vessels can be simulated as well. Thus, one could even go so far as to say that death itself no longer exists. However, this comes at the cost of the destruction of the individual, the loss of variation. In which case is there truly life where there is no death? the Time Research Lab, which served as the foundation of this research center. Appeared out of nowhere in the year 2300 and was headed up by the scientific genius Balthasar. However, at the peak of his career, he simply vanished. We've continued his work and have come this far. Our work is almost complete. Well, it's about time he headed back. The experiment's about to begin. So 380. Is the time that you pick up Robo in Chrono Trigger. And Balthasar builds a time machine. That your party then takes back to 1000 AD. And the rest of the game goes from there. So if this place appeared out of nowhere in 308, then does that mean that Balthasar was predestined to build a time machine regardless? Fate is a large-scale prototype completed in the year 2300. It integrated the old mother brain computer circuitry into a more powerful supercomputer. But that's just not right. The mother brain did the kill all the humans bit. Fate contains a massive amount of historical data dating up to the year 2400. The record of Fate is exposed. Two worlds that are so close in nature, yet so far removed from one another, exist in separate dimensions. These worlds are under the constant observation of, and are there guided by, the main computer of Chronopolis, Fate. Fate has been manipulating the world in which El Nido lies in order to avoid any major change to the history it knows. An event on El Nido influences the main continent, the year 2400, in which Fate exists would change. This paradox could potentially lead to great disaster. The records of Fate, Fate's terminals, collect data from the world and input guidance directly into the minds of its users. In this covert manner, Fate is able to control the lives of people without them knowing. Guided by Fate, the people of El Nido lead harmonious lives. In a sense, they are nothing more than puppets of Fate. An instruction to young anyone to give up going to the main continent to become a poet. An instruction to the man in Arnie 2 to give up on becoming a fisherman. A plan to avoid any point of contact with the main continent so as not to affect history. However, ever since the formation off Dead Sea 10 years ago, Fate has been unable to intervene directly with World 1. The best Fate could do was to cross the dimensions and receive data through the records of Fate. And with much difficulty, Fate succeeded in binding Miguel to the Dead Sea as a watchman. So that's interesting. These green save points are computer terminals. And they have been manipulating the world. You know what's funny, he? I played an independent RPG game back well before this game came out. Where to finish the game's good ending, you had to destroy all the save points. Because otherwise the bad guy would just pop back out of the save point. This is the observation room. This is where we observe the two parallel worlds. The main computer of Chronopolis is called Fate. Search found card key. It all began with a notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it while cleaning out the closet. This old notebook, covered with mold, was a diary that belonged to my grandfather who passed away years ago. It contained his distant memories.
Riddle, does this device play back archives?
Stina, looks like someone's memory. I wonder if you still remember how we first met in our many adventures. It all seemed like a dream. We ran like the wind during those worms. Sounded like those worms. You were a piece of a star that fell from the scale. I can still relive the memories of those days long past. Just by closing my eyes like so, and whispering your name into the desolate night. Kid. Radical Dreamers, La Tracer entered it.
Riddle, what is this?
Student Radical Dreamers. What does this mean?
Riddle, there is a conversation with a comrade.
Are you ready, kid? I know you're anxious, but stay on your toes. Yeah, likewise, mate, you mess up, and I'm leaving you behind. Got that, Surge? Simon Magil, let's go. That bastard Lynx is gonna get what he deserves. So your prayer's not that it'll do you any good. Hey, ha, H-E-A.
Riddle. This seems to be an archive from a different time than our own.
Stina, aside from the two worlds we already know about, other worlds and times may also exist. I'm going to assume that this is directly referencing the Radical Dreamers game. Though at the point this game was originally made, I'm not too sure what would have been here. Since the Radical Dreamers game was not a cartridge game. And was not even known in the West unless you were a dirty pirate. The experiment is underway. Access denied. Confirming access granted. fingerprint and retina scan required. Please step inside this circle and hold up your left hand. Yeah, oh look, Project Kid. What? Analyzing, please stand by. Analysis complete. Fingerprints, retina, and class DNA all clear. Data discrepancy D, due to aging within permissible range. 96 confirmation that this individual is the last registered arbiter. Access granted. Welcome back, Chrono Trigger.
Riddle, so that is why. Riddle, so that is why Lynx needed Surge's form.
Stina, Lynx must be in cell already.
Riddle, yes. Along with the frozen flame.
Arbiter confirmed. Access granted. Stina, where are we? Stina, is that the frozen flame? Exactly. Stina. The hero of people's prayers, the provider of riches, fame, and power. The bestower of eternal life, the promiser of peace and happiness. Lynx is the essence of what descended from the heavens in the prehistoric age. The living crimson stone of frozen flame. Stina Lynx. Lynx, what took you so long? You had me worried. Worried that you might have perished on the way here. Lynx, what took you so long? You had me worried. Worried that you might have perished on the way here. Stina, are you alright? Lynx, at no use, I put her soul to sleep. I had to remove any potential obstacle from us having this talk. Lynx, it's no use, I put her soul to sleep. I had to remove any potential obstacle from us having this talk. Stina, who are you? What are you after? Lynx, you still don't know. I am the human incarnation of Fate. The living interface of the Fate computer system. Or put simply, too, I'm Fate. Stina, what? Lynx, 14 years ago, on the night of a terrible storm, the cogs began to turn. That night, Wazuki and Miguel set out to sea carrying a sick child in their boat. That child was you, Sarge, after you had been attacked by the panther demon. Your poisoned wounds were beyond the healing abilities of the doctors in Termina or of Ingoldov. So they set sail to Marley in order to see this together, knowing how bad the storm would become. Being skilled sailors, the two men were able to survive the storm. But they were blown off course and came ashore at this island where they decided to seek shelter. At the time, this research center was offline due to the severity of the storm. It only took 10 minutes for the system to power back up, but by then, the flame had found you. Lynx, contact with the flame healed your young body, but that was not all. Once the security system was rebooted, it would only grant access to Youth Arbiter. You can't imagine the trouble this caused the Fate computer system in achieving its objective. Inside of Fate, there was a standalone circuit that had been kept hidden since the old Mother Brain generation. That circuit was designed to start a malfunction, or more precisely, a rebellion. Lynx, who would have thought that such a small bug, a traitor, could exist inside of Fate? That hidden circuit was based in the initial Ash-tier model circuit board, with extra logic added by another scientist. Fate itself did not realize that this circuit was present within the core of its system. Or, more correctly, the circuit was programmed so that the moment Fate did detect it, it would erase all record of its detection. Lynx dear, look at Ash-tier. Unbelievably intelligent and incredibly enthusiastic. You might even go so far as to call her a mad scientist. Of course, I don't think it was she who implemented her theory. This was most likely the work of Balthazar, the first curator of the research center. Lynx, Fate, bring out the traitor, bring out Prometheus. Affirmative. You have finally released me. Welcome back, so you're the real Surge. I've waited a long time for you. I'm glad you made it in time. Surge, I beg you. Please bring an end to the enmity between Fate and the dragons. Lynx, Fate. Eliminate him. Affirmative. Now eliminating Prometheus. Dina, no, you cannot. Sarjet, please, for the future of mankind. F4, the futuring. Lynx, idiot, destruction to those who oppose the goddess of fate. Stina, Lynx, why you? Lynx, how come Surge? Show me what the purpose of your life on this planet is. Teach me what it means to be alive. Is this going to be like the first real fight with Lavas, or is this just a prelude to another? I'll be right back.